Ja, det skal bare se, at der var lyd igennem.
And I see Robin is here. Did it pee now, by the way? Hi, can you see us? Are we coming through?
Can you all hear us
You
and
don't have
see
to
us?
yell them.
Can you see us and can you hear us?
Oh God, please don't. Patching through?
Patching through, indeed, young blood. Thank you, Omar. Thank you so much. And welcome to our third live stream. This time talking about music. And even though our channel is mostly about TV series and movies, music is a very big passion of ours as well. So we have a lot to talk about when it comes to music. And the live stream is gonna be the same as the previous ones. We're gonna be talking for about 2 hours or something, maybe. Depends on how many questions you have and everything. And we've prepared some stuff to talk about our what we listen to all the way through our lives as kids and teenagers and everything. And if you have anything you want to ask us or anything you want us to talk about, any artists in particular that you want to hear our opinions on, then you can submit a question through Streamlabs. The link is down in the description, so you can just go in there and I'll keep an eye on all the Streamlabs questions and everything. And then we'll talk about whatever you want us to talk about if you have anything. So
Hi, Mom.
Oh. Hey, yes. Hi, Mom. Yes, that's my mom. She is watching, and when it comes to music and yeah, it's I have that's like a very special thing I have with my mom is I listen to a lot of music with her, and we are going to and have went to many concerts together actually. So that's a thing I will always have with her, I think. So yeah, hi, Mom. Nice that you could join the stream as well. So should we maybe start with going into the stuff that we have prepared?
I was actually just second guessing myself and thinking I just wanted to talk a little bit about my relationship with music, or we could talk about our relationship with music.
Yes, okay, just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
Well, do you want to start?
I can do that. It's been like my feelings about music and how much I've of my time I've put into it. It has kind of changed through the years, and it has gotten to be more and more of a big part of my life. At first, I just listened to not a lot of different music, if you can even categorize what I was listening to as music, but I'll get more into that when we start going back. But now, definitely, music means a hell of a lot to me and to us, and music. It has a lot to do with mood for us, so it can improve your mood, or it can enhance the mood that you're in at the moment. So we just listen to a lot of music, and yeah, it's a big part of our lives. And when we get every year when we get closer to summer and everything, then the festivals, there's a lot of festivals and concerts, and we love going to festivals and attending concerts and experiencing everything live with people. And that's also one of the things that we love that music can do, is bring people together. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest things for us, and why music is so important, I think. But what about you, honey? Your relationship to music is probably way more intense and has been more intense through your entire life compared to me.
Yeah, I was...
depending on the artists, of course, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I was... I went to a school that was... it was a private school where there's a lot of creativity. There was a big focus on creativity in general. And we sang every morning, had 3 songs, and then before we went off on Fridays, we also sang for half an hour. And Yeah, so music means a lot to me, of course, in that regard. But I also went to boarding school for 2 years, and it was a musical themed
Boarding school. Yeah, yeah.
So that was also very important, like both dancing and of course drama and like theater and music. But I started with music, like actually starting to learn music, like really created my passion arose. What would you say? When I was 13, and started going to guitar lessons, and and so we started there with the music, and then I went on to play bass for a couple of years, and then I went to high school. That was a very, very specific high school that was focusing on a lot of music or theater or creativity in that regard, but especially because it was like they were connected, like the high school were connected with a music school. So we had like 2 hours of mandatory musical theory every month, every week, as well as half an hour of our main instrument, and then half an hour of mandatory piano lessons. And that was so that was my late teens, was a very music focused in that regard. And then I kind of just and I shifted after the first year. I shifted from bass to singing, and I've been singing ever since. But not like, I'm not very good at it. It's just something that I love doing, and of course you can tell by me being very emotional. I'm always crying when I'm singing. So yeah, I think music means a lot to a lot of people, but sometimes it means more in a more like a theoretical sense, maybe. Like I like learning about like the history of music, and I love to also the psychology behind music and the physics behind music. All of that is it means a lot to me in all aspects, and not just listening to it and enjoying it like that.
Yeah. So you can say that your like your feelings about music are definitely more in the sense that you are also trying to understand it and educate yourself with what the history of music and instruments and how they work and how singing works and how you use your throat and stomach and everything when you're singing, and how you can do that differently and better and all that, because yeah, once in a while when we're listening to something and you definitely have more insights as to what that person is doing, like just with their voice or or with the instruments or something, where I don't notice it at all. I have a, do I like it or don't I?
Yeah, exactly. Going on. For me, I'm very analytical about it, because that's kind of what I just said. It's in my. But yeah, I have a preference towards pop music in general, like with and we're talking about the analytical pop music. Very, it's like I can't even translate it to English because I don't know what it's called. But there's a specific set of chords in a specific way of arranged in a specific way, and this is just basically what defines what is pop music. And it's back from the big Austrian and German artists like Mozart and Beethoven and
okay, so those, it's been established a long time ago that those are like the
that's it with music. It's like we basically already have like a set understanding of music. We're just completely always expanding on that understanding of music.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And music is always evolving, and that's something that one of the things that I love is when artists, they get really they really try to do something new with the genres, and then maybe they try to mix and they try to experiment a lot. I like experimental music because yeah, you know, it can be very hit or miss, but at least that's how the whole the medium as a whole can move in new and exciting directions, is when we or artists try to do something new and different and use instruments in a different way, use effects. I know that this is a thing that people like to argue about a lot, but the whole auto-tune thing, I know that that's a new one, and one that you're not very fond of, because a lot of people are just using it as a means to just sing and make music when they can't really sing in real life. But then there are artists who are using it more as an instrument, like Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, or something like Kanye did with the 808s and Heartbreaks. And that's just, yeah, an example at least.
What the fuck?
Wait.
Sorry, we just...
Are you serious? I'm sorry, guys. It's just someone donated. Is that for real?
It's...
Sorry. We just...
Sorry, we just...
From Charles 12 just donated a lot. Have fun with it. Love your reactions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that on purpose? With like is the...
Did you put
the punctuation at the right place? Like, holy shit, dude! Thank you so much. That just yeah. Sorry, that totally messed up our flow, but for good reason. Thank you so much, dude, man. Wow.
Thank you. Wow. Sorry. Thank you. I can't even. Sorry.
Just thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's like, with everything going on in the world and everybody struggling and wow, thank you so much.
You're the best.
You're the best. We're gonna hit you up privately. Just, yeah. Sorry.
Like a lot. We won't go into details and specifics.
No, unless he would want us to, but we don't want to divulge too much. But it was very, very, very generous. And he's saying yes. Is that yes, as in you would like us to tell people how much you donated, or... wow. Thank you. That's very, very, very generous. Okay, let's see if we can get back on track here. Where were we?
We were talking about how much some of us hate autotune.
Oh, yes. We were talking about that. Yes, how it can be used as an instrument. Oh, no, thank you, guys. It's people telling us congratulations and we deserve it. And thank you so much. And it was on purpose. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
That's... that was the S4. Okay, yes, it was on purpose. All right. Yeah. I don't even know how to continue.
But yeah, okay, I can continue a little bit in a way. The way I see how people are very skilled at what they're doing, for example, especially with singers, is the way I categorize a good singer is by someone who, of course, has a very good vocal range, but is also able to do a lot of different things with their voice. So if they can, depends, of course, in which, what kind of theory you are believing in or educated in. And I was educated with a woman named Katrine Sadolin, and she is, or something like that, Sadolin at least. And she has like these basically 4 principles that you can sing, and then you have all these kind of distortion effects that you can put on your voice, such as growl is of course something you can, form of distortion you can put on your voice, and like you can sing like with an open throat, and there's many different ways you can alter your voice. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at skill, if you are able to do a lot of different things and not just necessarily, for example, let's say Beyonce. She's an amazing singer, and she has a crazy range and stuff. But if she only sang in that, in a specific way, she can only do as much, if you get what I mean. It's like,
because of her range, she has a more, like, she can do way more different kinds of music. And
yeah, but not necessarily. She might be very confined into like one, like you might always sorry, my English is just
not sufficient at the moment.
no. If you can see it like in a way that she's not, she's being typecast. But I think Beyonce is a bad example because Beyonce is that good. But Shakira, for example, that's another one. She has a very distinct way of singing. She's opening her throat a lot, the back of her throat a lot. So it sounds like she's always yawning when she's singing. And while of course I love Shakira, but she's very then she's very confined to that specific way of singing, that specific technique, and yeah, and that's just the way I see it. If you want to only confine yourself into one thing and you only get very good at that one thing, that doesn't necessarily for me mean that you are very good
singer.
Yeah, it's the same in both genders. Yeah. So that's just, I just wanted to point out, I think that skill is, and being good at something, technically good at something, means that you are able to do a lot of different things.
Yes.
But, yeah.
And that's actually a pretty good segue, I think, into talking about what kind of music we have been listening to through our young lives so far. And I would, if it's okay, I would like to start.
Please do.
Yes.
We're just gonna say what we listened to, in the different time periods, and maybe put some words on it.
Yeah, exactly. Just say a few things about the different kinds of artists we were listening to. And the reason why I wanted to start was that you were just talking about artists being able to do a lot of different things, both vocally and maybe with the instruments as well. And then for me, there's like one artist that I've been listening to through my entire life, and that is very much because of my mom. So if you're still listening, Mom, thank you very much. And that is Prince, because that is just the biggest musical, like the biggest icon for me, and his ability to play with all kinds of genres, and his vocals, his vocal range, and his ability to play pretty much every instrument out there known to man is
almost any genre as well.
In any genre as well, and many of the first albums he did, and later on, like, he did everything by himself, like the recording, the singing, every musical instruments, everything he's doing by himself. So I think he's like a perfect example when you're talking about an artist who has range, because he really has like an abundance of range. So that's the artist that I've been listening to through my entire life, and probably like the first kind of music, the first music I was ever introduced to, like straight out of the fucking womb. So that's very much from my mom, and my dad, he is not really that much of a music person. He divides AC/DC, so I also listened to some AC/DC as a young kid as well. And then my own taste in music at that point in time was rather weird, because I didn't really listen to any other like known artists that much, and the only albums that I owned at that time was like comedy albums, like stand-up comedians doing like weird things like this. This guy in Denmark called Anders Madsen. His nickname is Anden, which translates to the duck. And he made some like funny albums where he like made like a whole story and did like silly songs and Akadaka, yes, exactly.
I love it.
Where he did like funny songs and everything. So I had some of that, and then I listened to like D-Devils and Duck Toy and some other weird techno like music.
Oh, what about Crazy Frog?
This was before Crazy Frog.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, for some reason I liked listening to that when I was a kid. But then I definitely started listening to more music later on in my teens and everything. But that was my kid years. So let's move on to you, and I think you can mention more artists than me, at least, because at that point the only real artist I was listening to, that was Prince and maybe some AC/DC. So
Yeah, but I think I'm just going to say just some things that I've always listened to throughout my whole life. And I've always listened to classical music a lot, because I always saw these amazing small stories play out, actually. And then, of course, like piano music is also a part of that. And music scores for movies and games and series and everything. I've always been a big fan of the music scores. Then, of course, the Beatles. I've always listened to the Beatles. I love it. It's an old classic. You know, Beatles are some of the most
recognizable music out there and bestsellers, and it's some of the biggest ever.
Of course, Disney, because I grew up in the 90s where Disney was a big thing for kids.
Yeah. Maybe I could also just quickly say that as a kid I also listened to music through movies as well, but not in. I had the albums and everything. Maybe except for the Star Wars soundtracks, I probably always listened to those. But yeah.
Yeah. And then I listened a lot to Danish classical, or sang it with I was very much into psalms, and we have these classical Danish songs that you sing in
church and
church
stuff.
And other where boarding schools and everything. But of course I was a young kid, and especially I was a young girl, girly girl, pink girl, you know the kind.
Yes.
I loved all the big late 90s start 2000s, and there was Britney Spears. I freaking loved Britney Spears. It was Shakira, as I just mentioned. It was Christina Aguilera, and the Spice Girls, and Aqua, and and then I was also very much into boy bands and everything that stemmed from boy bands. So Backstreet Boys and Justin Timberlake and Robbie Williams. Also a Danish band that came out back then. Sabia, they're called. And I listened a lot to that because that was when it came out, and I listened to a lot of the things that just came out in that period of time. Also Maroon 5 actually made a crazy good album back then. I can't remember the Songs About Jane, I think it's called. That was really good, and I really liked that, and I'm very sad that they kind of moved away from that sound, because I really liked that one. I still do. And of course, with all these artists that we're going to mention, yeah, of course. Most of it is something we still listen to. At least I still listen to.
Yeah. Me too, except for the early stuff I mentioned, the weirder techno-like music I listened to as a kid. And I just see that my mom she has to leave the stream now, but she's saying we'll see you on Saturday, and I'll have a look at the rest of the video when I come home. So thank you, Mom, and thank you so much for joining the stream. That's really nice.
Yes.
And Steph Corrupt is here, finally.
Yeah, finally.
You made it, dude. You made it.
I also saw that Robin finally made it. Hi, Robin.
Oh, great.
If you're still here.
Yeah. Oh, and I can see Alex made it too. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
The band is back together.
Yes.
I just, of course, I listened a lot to Justified, the Timberlake's Justified album, the first one.
Yeah.
I still think that's great, and maybe the best one he did. I just wanted to say that I listened to all of that went on in the TV. We had our own version of MTV, what was called Boogie, for young adults and kids, and I think it was a little bit too. It was not aimed for kids, but more like the young adults. But that I watched it too, and everything that went on in radio, and
Yeah. We were, of course, at that time, something like MTV and VH1, MTV specifically. They were still playing music. It was a music channel and not a, what is it now, like a reality TV channel or something? I have no idea what they're doing anymore. But back when MTV was still MTV. Yes, and someone asked something about, because you mentioned, maybe we should just quickly touch on this, like psalms and stuff, like religious music. And it's not because that we are strictly speaking religious, it's just it's more of a tradition thing here in Denmark, that we grow up still like attending church and having to learn some of the stuff like the psalms and some of the sayings, and then when people get older, they maybe tend to be like, well, I don't need to be part of the church because I don't really believe in it, and then they leave it, and it's up to them if they want to raise their children in those traditions as well. But no, not really religious. You were maybe more religious as a kid.
Actually, and please bear with me, I was very, very, very religious up until the age of almost 14. No, 13, because I was like 1 week from something called confirmation day. For many youngsters, they get confirmed in their belief.
Yeah.
And 1 week before that happened, I lost my faith completely. But up until that point, I was like, I prayed like every night before I went to bed, and I really believed. I was so religious. But I just, as I said, I just lost the faith. But I don't hold a grudge towards Christianity as an as a religion.
Yeah,
maybe more like an institution. As soon when people start to get
all up in other people's business about how they should live their lives,
when
and
they're
stuff.
being intolerant, because that was not what I was taught. I was not taught in the way that the way of Jesus was not his way of. Jesus' way was to love thy neighbor and always do upon others that you would have others to do upon you.
Yeah.
That was his teachings, basically. At least that's what I got out from it. So people not adhering to that was just something that made me. That was just something that made me question. And I think maybe it was like the state of the world that made me question my belief more than it was actually like God.
Mm.
And
Sure.
and so I don't hold any grudges towards Christians.
No, why would you? Like, it's up to anyone, are free to believe whatever they want, as long as they don't try to force their beliefs on anyone else. That's
as you
pretty
don't
much
try
it.
to hurt anyone.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yes, all right, let's move on in our little timeline thing here. And just a reminder that if you want to... If you want to ask us a specific question, or if you want our opinion on a certain artist or something, of course music related, then you can do so over on Streamlabs. The link is down in the description, and you can just go in there and ask us to my early teens, where this is where like my music world kind of opened up a little bit, and I think I bought my first like real album. I got my first like real album that I started listening to, and that was the Eminem Show. I started listening to a lot of Eminem, and I got really into hip hop. So like most of my early teens and late teens, and then from then on, are very hip hop filled. I really enjoy hip hop music, and I also listen to a lot of other stuff, but that came kind of later. At this point in time, I was listening to a lot of Eminem, as I said, and Tupac, of course, and some of the big West Coast artists like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. I also listened to 50 Cent. He was really big around that time, the early 2000s for me. Outkast as well, T.I., Lil Wayne, and it was also around that time that the whole crunk music movement kind of started with Lil Jon and the East Side Boys and some of that stuff, where it was basically just yelling over very, very, very heavy beats. And that's an interesting time, but with that's the kind of music that I listen to, and the friends that or the people that I was friends with, that's the kind of music that they listen to as well. So that was a very early hip hop phase for me, and it's kind of a lot of it has stuck with me, and I still enjoy listening to many of these artists, and especially someone like Eminem. It really had a huge impression on me, and I still consider like the Eminem Show and the Marshall Mathers LP to be among my like favorite albums of all time, definitely. So without getting too much into all the nitty gritties of that's those are my early teens. That's hip hop for me. Yep. And what about you and your early teens?
As I said, I started playing. I went through a very rough phase in my around 5th grade. From my 5th to my 7th grade, I went through a very, very hard phase in my life. And summer 2005, I think, something happened in my life, and I had a friend reach out to me and say, hey, maybe you should hang out with me more. And I'm listening to all of this rock music, and
no, I don't dance. Sorry, just
and we started listening to rock music, and I started actually listening to music and actually care for music. And yeah, so that happened. I opened up for rock music in my life, and there's a lot.
There's a lot of artists. All right, so yeah. Get ready. There's a lot.
And I remember this because we used to sing it when we went out in the summer nights, and we got scared. We started to sing very loudly. We started to sing Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark. So we listened a lot to Iron Maiden. We listened to Metallica, the Black Album mainly, for my part at least. My friend was much more into specific things, and she also showed me a Danish grunge band called Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and someone else actually mentioned it up top.
In the comments?
Yeah, in the comments.
Nice.
It said we should definitely recommend Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and early Dizzy Miss Lizzy was perfect, and
great,
the first album just called Dizzy Miss Lizzy is really good. And I remember how much I really didn't want to listen to Nirvana because I felt like Nirvana was the worst. But then I listened to it, and it was just like this very depressive, grungy, slightly punky music. It just spoke to me in a way. But especially the MTV Unplugged album, it's great. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's very real, it's very raw, it's very organic, and I love that. And of course, Rage Against the Machine with the self-titular Rage Against the Machine. I've listened to the first album of Arctic Monkey. I don't really care that much for everything else they've done. I think they have a few bangers afterwards, but the first one is just, there's something very raw and very organic about it. And I started to listen, of course, Akadaka. I listened to Queen and something called Incubus, and the album A Crow Left of the Murder. And I actually also started listening to Muse back then, especially Origin of Symmetry. And then something happened where I just grew tired of Muse, and then I was just, I didn't listen that much to it. And then Queens of the Stone Age, I was very, very fond of Queens of the Stone Age, especially the album Songs for the Deaf. I listened to Red Hot Chili Peppers, especially By the Way. I listened to System of a Down. I listened to... Did I say Queen? I also listened to The Who, especially the album called Who's Next. And Pink Floyd, actually. And that was something my mother, I think, kind of introduced to me. Pink Floyd, and Pink Floyd just grew with me. And I think Pink Floyd has some of my favorite music compositions of all time, actually, and that's Shine On You Crazy Diamond. And actually the whole Wish You Were Here album is just like one of the biggest pieces of art of all time, actually.
Yeah.
And of course I also starting to listen to Pearl Jam.
Yes.
And I could talk for a very long time about Pearl Jam. Like a very long time, because it was my teenage love. It was like the one thing I've never hyperfixated. I have never loved something as deeply as I've loved Pearl Jam back then.
Yeah.
It was. I don't even have words to describe it. I was able to recite almost all songs, even the weird ones. I was able to recite which albums were released in what year, what numbers, what tracks were on the different albums. And I went to see my first concert, really. My first real concert was Pearl Jam in 2007. I still have the ticket lying around somewhere. Because this was like the first thing.
Very special, yes. And then you save stuff like that. I also have like...
I don't really save that much. I don't do much in like memorabilia any longer.
Okay, then that's just me.
But that single ticket is so meaningful to me. And I also went back and saw them in 2012 because I just had to. And they were actually supposed to go here in June, late June. But of course, they're not going, I think, because of the lockdown.
Oh, yeah. That's
unfortunately,
for sure. That's for sure.
I was on a waiting list for the tickets, but yeah.
Yes.
That was the biggest one. And I think that's Pearl Jam must have been one of my princes, but probably my prince.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you still love it. And
I still love it.
Eddie Vedder is still Bay.
Yeah, he's yeah, I had but he's not. It's not like he's like my teenage love.
No.
Like, that was
music wise, or
yeah, but it's not. It was not the way I loved him. I loved him like a brother or like a male version of myself. I didn't love him as a heartthrob in that.
No, I didn't mean it like that. But yeah, okay.
So yeah, that was Pearl Jam was like that's also why I'm wearing this T-shirt, because I just thought I had to talk about it.
The biggest, yes, and I am also wearing something Prince, but I'm also always wearing something Prince because of
yes,
my tattoo. All right, we have another Streamlabs from Solo Asta. The songs I share to someone who don't know Pearl Jam and Prince are Release on 10 and Money Don't Matter Tonight on the Diamonds and Pearls album. What's yours? So you can maybe speak to Pearl Jam. Like, what would you, if you were to introduce Pearl Jam to someone who doesn't know about Pearl Jam and you really want to get them into it, like what would you say they should listen to? And then I can think about the Prince thing while you're doing that, because I don't know.
I think it's really hard because, as of course, I don't swear to 10 like many other people do. I think 10 is an incredibly important album, but it's not even my favorite album, because I can't really say which one is my favorite. I think actually No Code or Yield is one of my favorites, because I like the sound a little bit more on that one, those ones. So it's really hard for me. I would just say, if you're like a little bit emotional like me, maybe you should listen to Black, because it's one of the best they've made. From 10. Well, that's the thing with 10. I love all of these the tracks. All of them. I love them. There's no weird ones on that one, but there's one I love a little bit more, and that's Black, of course. But I love all of them, and that's the thing. On the other albums, there's usually like one or two songs where I'm like, I don't like this, or this is weird, or this is like, I don't like that. And that's just, I don't know. It's just
yeah. So your answer is,
I don't know. It's
maybe Black. All right.
Maybe Black.
Yes. Okay. And for me, that's also very difficult, because there's just so much and so many different genres with with Prince. Money Don't Matter Tonight's definitely a good one. If I have to say, like, some of the newer Prince that I would maybe introduce to someone to get them into Prince or just ease them into it, could be something with a more modern sound, like musicology, or I've always really, really dug 3121, actually, that album. But, of course, to really introduce them to the Prince that most people know, the easiest thing would probably be to just give them the Purple Rain album and say, listen through that. But something I also very much also enjoy, if I were to try to introduce someone to Prince and his more experimental sides, I would maybe play something like Rainbow Children, because that's more jazzy and more experimental, and it shows off that side of him as well. That's not just pop and rock and stuff. So yeah, I think that would be my answer. And we have another Streamlabs, so let's get to that one before we move on in the timeline thing. Sorry, that came out of nowhere. It's from Sky. Oh, and we just got another one. This one is from Sky. Hi guys, any thoughts about Oasis? Not from me. Like, I've never really listened to Oasis except for like the big ones that most people know, I think. So maybe you can speak more to that. But that was never really something I got into, even though I know there's a lot of good Oasis music. So yeah.
I have listened to a little bit of it, and one of my favorite songs is actually not one of those that people mention whenever they talk about it, or talk about Oasis, and it's "Stand By Me." But it's because I have a lot of nostalgia connected with that song. But I actually saw Oasis back on Roskilde 2010, I think it was 9 or 10.
No reason to get nervous, guys. I don't have the corona thing. It was just something in my throat. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, I've actually seen Oasis live,
Mm?
and that was good. But I don't think I'm the right
Right one to speak to that
I don't think I'm the right målgruppe.
audience, or
Yeah,
like the
right,
target audience.
Yeah, right target audience.
No, maybe not. Like we did listen to. Wait, was it Liam or Noel?
I'm pretty sure it was Liam,
Liam.
yeah.
Yeah. We saw him live last year or the year before that.
Something like that.
I think, playing at one of the Danish festivals, and that was real nice as well. Yes, okay, we have another Streamlabs before we move on. From Peter. Hello, do you remember what song you dared to ask someone to dance and how old you were? For me, it was Backstreet Boys, Quit Playing Games with My Heart, and I was 7 to 8, and the girl was probably taller than me. Aw, that must have been like a real... Have to like build the confidence to go up and ask a girl to dance to a song like that. That's great, man. For me, that's hard because and I know maybe very drunk or something. I don't think I've ever gone up to a person and asked them out to dance and asked them out on the dance floor, because that's not normally where I would go. I would be sitting in the bar and just bobbing my head and drinking instead. And I know that you were mentioning here that you were 7 or 8 years old, so of course at that point no drinking or anything like that. But when I was that age, I don't think I went anywhere where I had the opportunity to ask a girl to go out and dance with me. I was just in front of a computer or something. So yeah.
And I was too shy to actually dance. So if people asked me up, I would just
run away screaming.
That was basically what I did. Yeah, that was actually what I did. Literally.
Fair enough.
So I really didn't want that, and I haven't ever asked someone up to dance, I think. But if there's one song that always can get me on the dance floor, it's definitely "I Want It That Way" by said Backstreet Boys. So
they still have the mojo.
We've talked about this before, but I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I really don't. I love Backstreet Boys. I love NSYNC.
Yeah,
I love all that.
Nothing wrong with
crazy
that.
boy band stuff, because it's so
It's so 90s,
tacky
and it's so
in its own cheesy way, and I really don't believe in, especially when it comes to music, I really, really, really don't believe in guilty pleasures. I was going to say something that was kind of demeaning, and I'm just gonna quit that.
I just saw someone mentioning, I am Primark mentioning we need to have a drunk stream. Maybe someday, guys. It's probably not going to be for long because
if we ever,
some of us might be lightweights a little bit at the moment because we don't drink a lot anymore.
No.
So it's not going to take more than a few beers and then we'll be like, ooh.
But if we are choosing to stream, for example, our wedding party or something like that.
Oh, then you're definitely going to see something like that. When we get to that point, the time in the future and the whole quarantine is over and we can start socializing again, and then at some point when we have some sort of wedding party or something like that, then we can involve some of you guys in that, or we would love to involve all of you, because this is has become kind of like an extended little family for us, and getting to spend time with all of you and talking about all the things that we love and the things that you like, and so maybe someday it'll come. But all right, let's move on with the timeline, because we've already been streaming for 45 minutes.
Drunk Mario Kart.
Drunk Mario Kart. Oh yeah, we could do some drunk gaming streams, and we're gonna talk a little bit about some game, like streaming, some gaming and some stuff at the end of this stream. So stick around if you want to hear a little bit about that. But yes, now I am moving into my late teens. And at that point in time, I was still basically listening to a lot of the same stuff that I were at my in the early teens with the hip hop and everything. Because that's what a lot of my friends were listening to. But I did start to, dive more into the genre as a whole and get more interested in, what are the big pioneers of hip-hop besides the ones that I know and do listen to. So I got more into stuff like NWA and the Wu-Tang Clan, Beastie Boys, Nas. I also started listening to some more Jay-Z, Big E, Busta Rhymes. And it was also around this time I discovered Kanye, I think, because this was when he started getting really popular, and he put out the College Dropout and Late Registration, and when he really started getting popular, and before he got to be the insane weird Kanye that we know today, but when he was still kind of sane. I think he's probably always been weird, but yeah. And another artist I listened to a lot at that time was actually not hip-hop, but Justin Timberlake. I just really liked Justin Timberlake, and especially his fuse to it, and with the production and Timbaland doing the beats and everything, they had very much of a hip-hop vibe to them. So that's when I really that's when my love for hip-hop was expanding, and later on I'm gonna start to listening to other genres as well and dive into those. But at this point in time, I was content with just focusing on a lot of hip-hop.
I'm just gonna say, Zeus, that if Sonny wants to wear sandals, he's allowed to wear sandals. I don't care.
Yes, as long as I don't do the socks and sandals thing, because that's just
I don't even care
prevention
about that.
Right there. Okay, fair enough. Easy to please.
I just want a big party and look very beautiful myself. And
we were talking about the wedding. Okay.
I think so, right, Zeus? Yeah, I just want a big party, and I want to look good. I want everybody to be happy, and I want good music, good food, good people.
Someone's even asking us what kind of songs we're gonna play at our wedding, and that would probably mainly be a lot of happy stuff from Prince and Coldplay and stuff like that.
All the good love songs.
Yes, and all the good love songs. Exactly. All right, so those were my late teens. More and more hip-hop, but I started listening to some more old school and really getting into the pioneers of hip-hop and understanding the genre as a whole. So what about you?
My late teens or my mid to late teens were very weird because I had like periods of time where I had then I had a period where I listened a lot to electronic music. Somebody mentioned Kraftwerk, and I really loved that because it was like an electronic piece of art. And I was so sad that I didn't see Kraftwerk on some of our on one of the Roskilde festivals. One of the years they were actually at Roskilde. Yeah, no, Sonny's not gonna do my makeup for my wedding.
Why not?
I don't want to look like a burglar or something.
No.
Yeah, and I also had like a very long disco period where I just loved everything disco. And Boney M was one of those that just I listened to it a lot, Boney M. And I also had an 80s period where I listened a lot to Roxette. And Marie Fredriksson was kind of my goddess for a very short period of time. And but I mainly listened to a lot. But my late teens were actually like my very vulnerable, where I was very angry and rebellious. In my young teenage years, I was more like introverted and very sensitive and all this vulnerable. Yeah. And I listened a lot to like indie music and like singer-songwriters and stuff. So I listened a lot to a guy called Taito, and especially the album that's called Poetry in Airplanes. I listened to John Mayer, especially Where the Light Is. It's a live album. I listened to Jose Gonzalez, both Veneer and In Our Nature. I listened to Tallest Man on Earth. I listened to Damien Rice, especially the album called O. I listened to Fleet Foxes. I listened to Jeff Buckley, Grace. Jeff Buckley is like also one of the big ones that I listened a lot to, especially Grace. It was just like, it went on repeat for like 2 years or something. It's incredible. I'm very sad.
It's such a fucking shame with that guy.
And I listened to a Danish woman called Tina Dickow, especially the albums, both Fuel in the Red and Welcome Back Color. And I listened to Radiohead, especially the bands in OK Computer. That was two. They have very different sound from one another. And I listened to Sia, one of her first albums called Color the Small One. And I've also recently listened a lot to 1,000 Forms of Fear. It's very good, very, very good, I think. And I think we got into Bonnie Prince Billy, I See a Darkness. Also very, very, very good album. And speaking of Bon Iver.
Bon Iver,
It was something I have listened a lot to in my late teens, and I still listen a lot to it, because I was the teenage woman.
And you're being teenage vulnerable.
Going through the worst depressions of my life and stuff, so I was leaning a little bit towards that. I also listen a lot to Robin, the album called Body Talk. She's also one of my female inspirations. I listen a lot to her music when I really wanted some self-confidence. And I really wanted to feel strong and independent and, confident. I listened to Vampire Weekend, The Strokes, someone called Trandemøller, also a Danish, he's an electronical artist. And I think how much I listened to Foo Fighters. I actually learned what Foo Fighters was, and I love it. And then I heard a lot of like Danish indie rock, some very good names here as well, and also very important for my life right now.
Yes, and they're all, might be Danish bands, but they are
English.
They're singing in English in that language, so you would be able to maybe understand it if you listen to it.
But Ave was a very small band, something called Ave, and they made very good music. And then I think something happened, and they never really made more. But I saw a concert with them, like a big symphony concert, and it was amazing. They took these very old texts from like 16th and 1700 texts, like old English texts, and then they put this very weird and very pompous and very beautiful music, and made it into amazing music. And well, they died as an artist. Something called Floor is Made of Lava, or The Floor is Made of Lava, especially the album called Howl of the Moon. And then some of my biggest loves, a band called Kashmir, and a band called Mew, and a band called Veto. And
great Danish indie rock right there.
Yeah, and I listen to it a lot, and I still listen a lot to Veto. I actually used one of their tracks to my dance exam in high school, because it was so good.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the bands that I started listening to a lot later on, and I even have their logo as a tattoo, if I can show it. That one.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was your late teens? Yes?
Yeah.
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 Perfect. All right. And all right, no Streamlabs. So let's gonna move on to my 20s till now, pretty much. So yeah, this is when I finally started branching out from hip hop a little bit more, and it also happened because I was starting to hang around with some people who listened to other kinds of music besides hip hop. So that was my in, kind of, and I remember that it kind of happened. I remember kind of when it happened. It was in 2011 when I was attending Roskilde Festival here in Denmark, which is like our biggest festival. And, playing that year or performing that year was bands like Kings of Leon and The Strokes and Arctic Monkeys and Foals. And I fell in love with like all four of those bands or artists straight away when listening to them live, and just seeing how excited my friends were about seeing them live. And then I just started listening to a lot from those bands, and then that kind of opened up my window into more like rock music and stuff like that. So yeah, the artist that I really started listening to was then Kings of Leon, The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys, and Foals, but also Bon Iver, which you mentioned, and I love Bon Iver. I love all of it, and I can still listen to that music all the time. At one point, I used to, every time I went to bed, I would just put on a Bon Iver album and listen to it while I fell asleep. That was it always calmed me down, their music. And Bon Iver and James Blake as well is kind of in the same vein for me as Bon Iver, as something that I can always listen to and always relax to. Tallest Man on Earth as well. I got into some more of a folky vibe there. If you don't know Tallest Man on Earth, he's a Swedish artist, and he's very much like, I don't know, some would call him the Swedish Bob Dylan in a sense, because his voice is kind of reminiscent and the same genre and everything. And then Mumford & Sons is also another band that I started listening to a lot around that time, and that was when they only had their first album, Sigh No More, where I still to this day love every single one of the tracks on that album, and I know you do too, and that's also been... we've seen them live a couple of times, and that has been like, oh my god,
and
amazing.
You actually kind of introduced me to them.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I introduced Kat to some music. I didn't even think about that.
Well,
great.
I've heard about them before.
Yeah.
That was, you were kind of like my gateway into it. You actually listened to it, and I started to listen to it. I think it was when Wilder Minds came out.
Yeah.
And you listened to it on repeat, and that meant that was just about the time we went.
Yes.
And that meant that we kind of listened to it. I kind of was listening to it by default. And then it was just like, this is really good. And then I listened to some of the old stuff and older stuff, and there was just like, oh my god, this is even better. And then, yeah, Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So yeah, Mumford and Sons, and the Black Keys, and then the Danish band Vito that I already mentioned. I also started listening to a lot of the XX, and that's also something that I can always fall asleep to because it's so calming and nice, and I just like the duets and their voices and everything. That's also one of the concerts we saw together that I really...
It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and I don't even listen that much to the XX, but this concert was just like, it just knocked it out of the park, and everything was just, I can't even explain it, because it was just like, everybody I've talked to about it, they agree. It's like one of the best concerts they've ever seen.
It was amazing, and they were so like just thanking everybody for showing up, and they were playing at this Roskilde Festival and on the biggest stage and everything, but people were just so kind to them, and they were just so happy about just being there and playing. And I love, that's one of the things I really love when attending a concert, is when you can see just how much the artist or the artists are just loving every second of it, and they're so grateful just for being there. I really, really like that. Sorry, someone just mentioned something. Yes, Swedish Bob Dylan sounds creepy. I imagine a blonde, muscled Viking like Bob. No, that he's actually not very tall, very skinny, and dark-haired. So not any of those typical Swedish features. Yes, all right, before we move on, we have another Streamlabs from Matt O. Hey guys, what type of venue do you enjoy hearing or experiencing music in the most? Is it like festival, theater, hall, dive bars, for example? So
I think it depends a lot on the situation of the music or what kind of state we're in and stuff. Because I like listening to music on my own time. I don't like when people say, "Oh, listen to this," and I'm like, "No, please don't. I don't want
Not
that
right now. I need to be in the mood."
I need to listen to stuff on my own time. But I also do like going to a concert where I know a few songs, or maybe I don't know anything. And for example, with the XX, that concert we went to. It was just amazing, and I knew like maybe I think
a couple of songs,
two tracks or something.
Yeah.
Angels, of course. I knew Angels because it's one of the most beautiful songs ever made. But yeah, so sometimes a festival can be very nice. I don't like going to concerts or festivals that much, even though I'm a huge music lover or whatever, because I think
it can get very crowded and very stressful very quick.
There are lots of people, and they always push, and
many drunk people, especially at festivals. It's
and I always my feet hurt after standing up for too long, and my hip hurts, and my leg hurts, and
everything hurts.
And it's just like I don't like that. And if I sit down for too long, I just get then I also. Then I get too restless. It's like once again the most amazing thing I've ever experienced was that Abe concert with the symphony orchestra, and we were sitting in like it was not a theater necessarily. It was like a made for symphony orchestra concerts. And that was the most amazing thing. But the venue I like the most for listening to music is actually just in my bed or on the couch or when I play, when I game. I love to listen to music when I game or when I work or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Just as I listen to classical music whenever I go out in traffic, because it stresses me out so much that I have to listen to classical music to just calm me down. So
yeah, sure thing. For me, it also kind of depends on the artist and the mood and everything. I do enjoy if it's a really big artist that like maybe made a lot of music that people know, and a lot of songs that people can they know the words to them and they can sing along. Then I really enjoy these big concerts where they're up to maybe 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people there, all singing along and all joining in this together and having this experience together. It can be nice. Like one of the most fun type of experiences I had with like a really, really, really big concert. That was also on Roskilde Festival, and that was Major Lazer, because they know how to throw a fucking party. And that was pretty much just like a really big party, but with a very big DJ stage. it felt like that. And they were having us run around and do all sorts of crazy stuff, the audience. So that was real special. And then there's also something like experiencing an artist like Prince on a very, very big stage with many, many thousands of people. And I have a very clear memory there of seeing and hearing him live, also on Roskilde Festival in 2010, and then when he started playing Purple Rain, and then it started raining ever so, mild rain, and then all the lights just turned purple, and it was just purple rain everywhere, and everybody, they were singing along and listening to his guitar solo for like many, many minutes afterwards. And yeah, that's something that I think when you are at a big venue, that they can really do that. And then I've also had some really, really good experiences with some more intimate concerts and venues where it will only fit maybe between 50 and 100 people, and maybe you will even be sitting down and just listening to that to that artist just doing something with a minimal amount of instruments, or an acoustic version of something that I really enjoy that as well. This like one of the better examples for me. It's an artist that most of you probably don't know. It's a Danish rapper called Kasper Spas, but it's more of a what do you call it when you just spoken words. It's more of a spoken word kind of thing a lot of the time, and it's very deep and very philosophical. And when you just listen to that and you're sitting down and hearing about him just rapping about life in a philosophical sense, I kind of like that. So but as I said, it depends very much on what kind of artist and venue and everything.
Now that you started to mention like festival concert, I mean, okay, some of the biggest experiences I've ever had was on festivals. Yeah. And that's why I always kept going. And even though I said, well, I don't like the program, like the musical
the selection of artists that they have
I still went, and booked. I've seen some very nice things. And for example, Robin last year was crazy. I had a bad experience because there's always people, and people make bad experiences. But you know, the concert separated from everything that happened was amazing. I mean, I really had some very good experiences with festival concerts, and I definitely don't think it's a bad venue for me at all. No, I love it.
Especially because when you're around so many people and they're all happy and singing along, and it's contagious. So if you maybe, like, I've tried that a couple of times at festivals, like going out and just having to not sit still and trying to get rid of my hangover and something, and just walking around like a freaking zombie up and around the stages, and then just finding somewhere where I can stand still amongst people, and then because what they're listening to, it makes them happy, and then because it's kind of contagious, it makes me in a better mood, or it puts me in a better mood, and yeah, that's also something that music can do, and live music can definitely do that.
Yeah.
As well.
And I also think I really like the kind of concerts where you have like a huge stage show going on. Like I really like to be challenged in that regard, in a aesthetic way. I like to watch things, and I like to have my senses of like I like to drown out other people. I would like them to be.
So you want as many things to bombard your senses as possible. So something like a Coldplay concert is ideal, and we've also gone to one of those together.
Well, everything Coldplay does, I mean, I love Coldplay. We haven't even dipped into that yet.
No.
I love Coldplay.
Yeah.
And I love their way of making concerts. I cry from last time we went. Sonny and I went, and one of my friends from uni went, and we had like a bet when I would start crying, and that's just because I cry, and I do. And I think we went, like I said, 3 songs in, or like the first song that's like the first sad song. And Sonny said something 5 minutes before, and then my friend said, yeah, well, around 17 minutes in. And around 3 songs in, around 15 minutes in, I started crying.
Yeah, the waterworks just...
Yeah, and it was Fix You. So it just started and it never stopped. And so Coldplay was one of those, but also Muse. Actually, we just went to a concert in September.
Oh
with Muse.
that was
just
really good, and especially with the whole visual part of it as well, because they really know how to put on a show, and everything with lasers and costumes and a big ass robot all the way, like coming up from behind the stage and over the audience and just going like this, and it kind of looked like a
really good.
Yeah, it kind of looked like the Human Reaper from Mass Effect 2. Just a little Mass Effect reference for you.
Yeah, exactly. It was just it was also the first thing I just said. It was just pointing. I said, "Oh my God, is that a Reaper?"
Did they bring the Human Reaper? What the fuck?
Yeah, and I just, once again, so many people found it tacky and cheesy or whatever, and I just thought it was amazing. It was basically just like they had this whole narrative with like science fiction like narrative, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm almost going to like a sort of storytelling with this concert, and it was just I can't even explain it. It was so amazing.
I really like that as well. When artists really try to do something to also, and I know you love when I say this, but to build a narrative or to just tell us a story in some way while they're on stage. I dig that as well. So yes, and all right, no more Streamlabs. So. Yeah, I've talked about like what I've been listening to from as a kid up until now, and I wrote something here that I've always known about and listened to some of the more important rock artists, for example, like Queen or Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, the Beatles, and so forth. But I didn't really get like really familiar with them until after I met Kat, because she really brought me in and just started playing a lot of that music for me. Because the only way that, like, for example, Queen, I've always liked Queen and I've always liked their big hits, but those are the only ones that I've listened to because those are the ones that usually get played on the radio or people will play them at parties or something. But not until you like really started just playing the freaking albums for me and with me, and I remember when we were traveling together and we were driving around California and then through the 20s I also listened a lot to just to mention some more hip hop here, but Kendrick Lamar and Tyler the Creator and Vince Staples and people like that came up like later on. Through the 2000s and 2010s and everything. So I also really enjoy those guys as well. Yeah.
Yeah, in my 20s or past my teens, recently I've been listening a lot to Led Zeppelin, like a lot. And a Danish album. Oh, not an album, sorry. A Danish artist called China. It's very classical pop music. Love that. Actually, I think you might have mentioned them, but Melody Coin. It's a Danish.
I haven't mentioned them yet,
okay.
but I'm
gonna. I actually, because while I have introduced rock into your life, or like the classical rock.
Yeah.
You kind of introduced hip hop into my life, and I'm still very hesitant about hip hop. But at least I've opened up to something.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've been enjoying together is Melody Coin. I already liked it before we met, but we have dug into that together as well.
Danish hip hop, who took a lot of inspiration from a lot of the stuff going on the West Coast in the 90s. Their style of hip hop is just not gangster at all. It's more like a lot of wordplay and just toying with the language, playing with words, and being silly, and it's very entertaining.
It's very entertaining.
You can understand it, of course.
Yeah, and it's very clever and intelligent, I think, and
yes.
and that's always the thing that I really like, and that's also why I'm a bit hesitant with hip hop, because I grew up in the 2000s
with crunk music.
And that gangster rap that was just about money and boobies and like drugs and guns and stuff. And it never really hooked me.
No.
But like rap music or hip hop about hardships, like hardships in life. I think hip hop actually was started in the 80s, about how hard it was to live as a black person on the streets and all of that, and how hard it was to just live as a black person in general. And I love songs about, or like texts about hardships, because
and when it's more like storytelling, that's what hip hop really started out as a means for a lot of people to tell a story about, this is how it is where we live, this is our reality, this is how it goes on here around where I live every freaking day. People are fucking dying here and no one is helping us, and we need to be able to express that the way that we want to express it. So yes, that's the side of hip hop that I also do enjoy a lot, even though I also enjoy a side of hip hop that I know that you do not, which is the more raunchy side, and where they are vulgar and very not politically correct. But I see that more as comedy. So but it depends on how you look at it.
And I really like when I don't like hardships, I really like when you have fun with things, like when you have fun with words, and if you use the language in funny ways and everything. And there's with Melody Coin, they're just masters at it. And this guy called G has the most epic Danish. He has like a verse in something called Cosmic Chaos.
Cosmic Chaos,
Yes. And it's like one of the best hip hop
verses
of all time. I mean, the way he uses Danish, the words and the flow and the language and everything is just spot on. And I mean, it's like, I'm blown away. It's like art. It really is art.
It's really good.
It's language art.
But if you had to mention like maybe some hip hop artists that aren't Danish that I've maybe introduced you to?
Run the Jewels. I love Run the Jewels because it's very angry.
I haven't even mentioned Run the Jewels. Freaking love Run the Jewels, yes.
And I can listen to a little bit of Kendrick, but it's not something that I have actively sought out.
No.
But I do think, because it sounds like he's definitely pulling on the old school strings a little bit more than much else.
Yeah, he's very paying a lot of homage to the old school type of hip-hop, Yes. Definitely.
And Eminem, of course. I also grew up in the 2000s, so Eminem is also
it's hard to get around like not listening to Eminem, because he was just everywhere when we were growing up, and it was just still to this day one of the biggest artists. So. And
I also listened to James Blake. It was not something you necessarily introduced me into, but it definitely helped me listen more to it. And we even saw that live concert he did a couple of weeks back. It was amazing.
On Instagram.
I think he's so goddamn talented. His voice, I could kill for his voice.
His vocals are just, oh my god. If you've never heard like his song A Case of You, which is it's a cover, but listen to that if you just want to hear his vocal capabilities, because it's just beautiful. It really is.
And then I listened a lot to, as we just talked about, Mumford & Sons. It's been something that I've been listening to a lot and enjoying a lot. And we do have a lot of good memories with that, because we traveled through California listening to Mumford & Sons.
Yes.
So that's mainly what I think when we listen to Mumford & Sons.
Okay,
And that's, if you haven't got it yet, I associate certain music with certain other things, especially nostalgia. So everything has like everything. I associate every kind of music with something I went through, or something I've enjoyed, like good experiences, bad experiences, all that, and what I learned from it. All of this, it's like, music is so many things to me. Then I have listened to someone called Hosier. Maybe you know him. He had this major hit. That's actually I would say if we had a song, like our relationship had a song, it would be Hosier's "Take Me to Church," because it just went out. It just became big when we started when we met each other. So I've always
because it was like really big around that time.
Yeah, exactly. I just felt like it was. That was
part
just
of that time in life.
Yeah, I listened to it a lot at that time. So yeah.
Yeah.
And someone called I can't pronounce it. It's a Icelandic band called it's spelled out Siguros, but it's something like Seoros or something like that. Sorry if any Icelandics out there are seeing this and hate me for it. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at it. But we listen
to pronounce.
Yeah, and we listen a lot to their album. It's a very specific album with their naked people running over some landscapes and stuff. We listened a lot to that when we went to Iceland the first time, because we had this very old Land Rover we drove around in, and it only had like a CD player, so we had to buy like CDs, and I think we had 2 CDs, and one of them was this Siguros album. So every time I think about Iceland, every time I hear the band, I just go straight to Iceland, or straight to that band. It's like they are connected completely, those two.
Yeah.
And Iceland is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
It's amazing. If you ever get the chance to visit Iceland, then I definitely think that you should do that, because it's amazing everywhere you look over there, and it's so varied in the landscape and everything.
And the weather.
And the weather as well is very much like, if you don't like the weather, then maybe wait 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to be completely different. So, and then there's the whole thing about in the summertime it never really gets dark, and during the winter time it never really gets light out. So it's interesting, to say the least. And just to like a quick comment about Siguros is if you've watched Game of Thrones, then you would have seen them at it was the episode where Joffrey and Marjorie, they were getting married, and they were playing at the wedding ceremony, and they were actually playing Reigns of Castamere, their version of it, and that version of the song is out there for people to listen to. Actually, it's an interesting version. The National did a version as well, which I prefer, but it's if you've seen Game of Thrones, you might have seen them in that.
Yeah.
Yes, and I also just quickly want to mention that if you want to ask us a question, or you want us to talk about an artist in particular, or something music related in particular, then please go over to Streamlabs, and then you can submit your question or your comment there, and we will get to it as quickly as possible, and then we'll talk about whatever you would like us to talk about. And just as I say that, there's another Streamlabs.
Kan jeg lige gøre den her færdig?
Oh yeah, of course. And
I just need to mention 2 more artists. There's a guy called Passenger. He had this major hit called Let Her Go, and that album, All the Little Lights, it was a very pivotal. Point in my life, because when it was just it reminds me of a very, very bad relationship. So and it kind of helped me through that. And then the biggest one of them, band or like an artist called Savers, and you know how much I love it. It's like, and we also went to a concert last year on Northside, one of the festivals, and that was good. That was crazy good. That was amazing. That was like the XX, but just like I actually knew basically all the songs.
Yeah, you're really fond of Savers.
I'm really, really fond of Savers. It's like this weird. He's very, very good with his vocals as well.
Yeah.
He's called Martin, And he was the first who won the Danish X Factor back then. But then he kind of he didn't really break through like with his career afterwards, except when he actually made
this. It took him some years to get there, but yeah.
I think he kind of went through like a soul searching thing, and then he broke all that down, and then he made Save Us. Now he's making this weird mix of like he has like there's like a soul gospel kind of feel in it, but it's still like rock and pop, and it's like
very unique, very unique.
If you want to look him up. Save us, like help us, like save us, like save us from.
But in one word, just save us in one word.
And the SAVEUS in capital all caps, and the track Himalaya, like the mountain range. Himalaya, whatever, that one. It's outstanding.
Kat's getting really excited about this, as you can see. I think they're good.
Yeah, exactly. Save us like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, save us, but just
in one. Yeah, you can probably find it. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Did you have?
No, that was the last one for this one at least.
Okay, fair enough. Then we have a quick Streamlabs here. Another one from Peter. Thank you very much, Peter. What are your favorite movies about musicians or about music? For me, Velvet Goldmine, Unauthorized Story of David Bowie and Iggy Pop. The soundtrack was composed by Thomas York. Oh, cool.
Tom York.
Oh, Tom York, sorry. Even though I'm wearing glasses. Dancer in the Dark, Björk, of course, Rocket Man, and Phantom Thread, Johnny Greenwood. Yeah, that's a very good question, because then we can bring some movie stuff into it as well. I think I can just say right off the bat, one of my favorite movies about music or about a musician is... Whiplash. Whiplash is a really, really good movie with some great performances about like, jazz musicians, and had an extremely good performance by J.K. Simmons, where he's playing kind of like the villain, but he's like a real life villain. Yeah, and he's amazing at that, and rightfully so. He won an Oscar for that performance. And then I also really, really love the movie by the Coen brothers with Oscar Isaac.
Oh, Inside Llewyn Davis.
Llewyn Davis, yes. Exactly. That's a movie that I can always watch as well, even though I know that it's kind of a structurally, pacing wise and story wise, it's kind of a movie that it's kind of a loop. And yeah, I don't. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil too much. But it has an interesting structure. But it's still I really enjoy that movie. And then one of the earlier like movies about a musician that I saw that I remember really enjoying, that was Ray with Jamie Foxx, and he also rightfully so won an Oscar for that portrayal. So yeah, those are some of the ones that I have really enjoyed, and I think both of us enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody, even though we know it didn't really delve into all tinted glasses and more of a romanticized version maybe of Queen, but I still think it was a good movie, and it was a movie that was uplifting, and you kind of left the theater with a smile on your face and not a frown. So yeah. I just wanted to say that Streamlabs is you have to donate, I guess, to post a question there. Yes. Yeah, unfortunately. And for me, I don't know, but I'm not really into biopics that much. But yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody was definitely what it was called? About Queen? Yeah, the one Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah. I really liked that one. Like, I really liked it. Yeah. It was funny. It was really funny. Mm-hmm. And of course, I love Queen's music, so that was great. And yeah. Sorry, I just thought of another movie that I actually really enjoyed music-wise. It's Straight Outta Compton. I actually think even though I really like NWA and I like I have an interest in that sort of thing already, and before going into the movie, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it was a well-crafted movie. with some good performances. So yeah, and maybe a little bit overlooked, that one. So yeah.
Yeah, I just, once again, I haven't watched a lot of movies, and I'm not into
Biopics that much.
biopics.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. Fair enough.
I also really liked Inside Llewyn Davis, but in a different way. I really love the music from Inside Llewyn Davis because it's like folky. And well, what can you say that? But Oscar Isaac is amazing, and his voice is absolutely outstanding, I think.
Yeah, if he ever just started, like, if he ever decided to quit acting and just started to make music exclusively, then I think he would be fine. He would do fine with that, because, yeah, he's really good. Just give him a guitar, and then that's it. Yeah, and Peter, you mentioned Velvet Goldmine, an unauthorized story of David Bowie and Iggy Pop, soundtrack composed by Tom York. I would love to look that movie up. I had no idea that one existed. I know there's a movie coming out soon-ish about Bowie, but it's also unauthorized, and they can't even use any of Bowie's music in that movie, and which. Why make a movie about him when you can't use his freaking music? But yeah.
Yeah, and Tom York is amazing. I've also previously told that I listened to a lot of Radiohead once and still love Radiohead. He's a little bit special, but he also helped compose with Björk for Dance in the Dark. Or at least he collaborated on I've Seen It All. It's also great. Very great, and it's a great movie. It's very depressing. It's Lars von Trier, Danish treasure or plague, depending on
who you ask.
But he's a Danish
artist.
Yeah, artist.
Yes, he's very much an artist, and he has said some not so, good thing, or he kind of put his foot in his mouth at one point in Cannes and said something about I totally get Hitler or something, and then people were like, no.
I just think he heiled or something.
Yeah, he did something where it was kind of taken out of context, but still it was not the best thing to maybe mention.
But I can see somebody mentioning Walk the Line. I really want to see that.
I was about to mention that as well.
But also I'm Not There, about Bob Dylan, where they have like 4 different actresses.
I think it's like 5 or 6 different
a lot.
actors.
I really want to watch that. I haven't watched it yet, and I know it's such a shame, but
yeah. So that one and Walk the Line we really want to watch.
Yeah.
And I have seen it. I just it's a long time ago, but someone mentioning The Doors with Val Kilmer.
I saw that one as well.
And I still think that's definitely one of Val Kilmer's best performances, and it's a shame that
I don't even know what I can't even remember what it's called. Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
What he looks like in real life, because I just see Val Kilmer and that's it.
Oh yeah. It's that was a good one as well. And someone said something else that I just wanted to say something about quick. I don't. Yeah, it disappeared. It happens.
Issuing correction on a previous post of mine regarding Adolf Hitler. You do not, under any circumstances, gotta hand it to him.
It's just a joke.
Okay, because I'm not very good at jokes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sometimes I'll do like that. Yes. All right. I have written down a little bit more, I think. I think I wrote down something about Danish artists, but we've already talked about many of them.
But there's definitely someone you might know. Like there's, we can just talk very quickly about like some of the biggest Danish artists.
Yeah, and then I can
that you might know.
Mention some of the obscure ones afterwards. But yeah, let's go with the ones that you guys would maybe possibly know about, and because they've been big outside of Denmark as well.
Yeah.
So
I told you that I really liked Aqua as a kid. They made Barbie Girl, and I think most people know what that song is, or maybe even very familiar with the lyrics,
music video or the lyrics or something
like that. Because it was like
a plague,
a plague
at some point.
And it's still somewhat is. But we also have like Volbeat. Some of you might know Volbeat. It's
more in the heavier hard rock kind of genre. Yeah, hard rock, I guess you would categorize.
And yes, Anders Obel is also a Danish composer.
Yeah,
artist.
singer-songwriter, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think she's that... I have her here, definitely, but I don't know if she's super...
I'm a Barbie girl.
If she's super known for the rest of the world. Of course, then Lars Ulrik from Metallica. He kind of started the band, and he's from Gentofte, so he's from around here almost. And then Mø, actually I have a friend of mine who knows her personally, and it's always funny when she talks about her. But yeah, she's...
Mø, and if you're listening to that and going like, Mø, I've never heard that, maybe you would pronounce it Mo or M, because it's an M and then the letter that's an O with a line through it, and that letter is called Ø here in Denmark.
Ø, and it's a letter. It's like a sound. It's an actual sound. So you cannot just go,
just use it because you think it looks cool to put a line through your O, because a lot of people are doing that. Or
it's like a major Danish pet peeve, I think, for most Danes. Is like, you don't use that.
You're using a letter, but not really using it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that about?
Yeah. So she's called Mø, and she's very big. I think she was made famous by that Major Lazer.
Yeah, the Lean On with Major Lazer. Yeah, that's
exactly. And then, of course, Lucas Graham, you might know him.
Oh yeah. He's.
I think his first big one was Mama Said, or 7 Years.
I think 7 Years was maybe his first big one overseas. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he got big fairly quickly here in Denmark, and I actually kind of really liked his or their first album. And then they just focused a lot on branching out and like getting big in the rest of the world, and they're just making a lot of the same music. So it kind of fell through for me, but they're quite big, I think, like really big in the US.
Yeah, and you might know the Ravenettes. I think they were big in the late 90s, maybe. Yeah. Castle was just there. Yeah, the Ravenettes. They made like Love in a Trash Can. Oh no, they did not. Oh my god, that was stupid. I mean, they made the song called Love in a Trash Can.
Yeah. Maybe they also did the other thing. Who knows?
And then of course I talked about a guy called Trandemøller. He's made a lot of music, and he also made like some. It's mainly electronica, and it's really good. And then I also talked about Mew. I talked about Kashmir. Mew was huge in Japan, I think it was. And then Kashmir.
Really? Oh.
I've heard people from, with Kashmir, I've heard people from at least United Kingdom. And of course they got sued, or they had like a dispute or something like that. So they had to call themselves DAD, and they made like rock music as well. And then you might know Dizzy Miss Lizzy. They were also huge in Japan back in the mid-90s. It was like the only real grunge band from Denmark. Or not the only real, but it was the biggest one at least. And then of course Junior Senior. They made this Move Your Feet. And I think everybody knew about that one in the early 2000s as well.
Yeah, like a dance track.
Exactly. They were kind of huge as well, but then they also disappeared because
exactly. And then just some of the more obscure Danish artists that I wanted to mention that I've listened a lot to. That was Vito, the one with the tattoo and everything. And then there's a Danish hip-hop artist called LOC. It stands for Liam O'Connor, and it's because he's like half Danish, half Irish. But his music is in Danish for the most part, at least. And he even did a track with Tech9 at one point, which is that was pretty cool. And another Danish group called Suspect. And I know you're not very fond of them, but that's... the type of hip-hop I talked about before that can be very vulgar and very sex-fixated. And I view it very much as comedy, but I totally get why other people don't find it funny at all. And they also actually, one of their songs, Kendrick listened to it and he really liked the beat. And then he ended up using it for Good Kid, Mad City, the track, The Art of Peer Pressure. That's the one he used it for. So that's actually a beat by Suspect. And then Melt the Coin that we were mentioning, and another group called Big Stock.
Oh yeah, I love
and,
them.
And they are more reggae-like, dancehall.
Yeah,
yes, but that's also like in the same vein as Melt the Coin, where it's very much about wordplay and using the language in new and creative ways, and it's very uplifting and funny music.
And he's also one of them. Is called Blaze Boogie. He's also in Melt the Coin, as we talked about.
He's in both of those.
He's both of those. So
of those groups.
Yeah.
So he's quite an important figure back home here.
Definitely here in the hip hop, dancehall, reggae.
Yeah. Exactly.
Scene. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, and then the next thing that I have on my list here is my favorite artist of all time. I don't know, are you there yet, or do you want to talk about?
I was just,
wait.
The scores. Like, I just wanted to shout out to some of the scores or the people that made scores for something major.
Yeah, like movies or television series or games maybe or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I didn't write any of that stuff down, but I can just...
Yeah, because I have mentioned some of this, I think, for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this game called Braid that is very special. It was made for Xbox 360, I think. And... sorry, there was just that one. And Braid was like an indie game, and it was just like a puzzle game thing, and it was just, you had to think a lot and everything, and it was just and the music was just stellar, and there's a lot of references to every time you completed a level, it said I'm sorry, but the princess is another castle. Mm-hmm. And we know that from Super Mario, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny with that, and at least the score for that is absolutely amazing, and it's like 50% of the game, I would say. And then one of my personal heroes is Hans Zimmer, and I think many people
for a lot of people as
yeah.
well, and we can even see like Primark saying there in the comments it's his favorite as well, like the best. And yes, Hans Zimmer is someone who's been around for a long while, and she's been knocking it out of the park. And I guess like now when you mention like the big composers when it comes to movies, I think most people will start to mention him in that group as well. But for a long while, he wasn't really included in like the upper echelons, like a John Williams or something. But I think he very much deserves to be in the upper echelons of that. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw that Elmir from Iran. It's perfectly fine. We understand that that you can't make a donation, and of course it's just the way it goes. And
exactly.
we still appreciate you being here. Please remember that we truly appreciate you watching.
Yes, and we appreciate every single one of you, and even like if you can't donate, that's like we will not get mad about that at all. Just the fact that you're here, just watching and listening, and maybe if you leave a like or a comment and subscribe, that's like all we can ask for, and anything on top of that is just gravy, and just we just love being able to do this with you guys. And we watched
the chat as well.
Yeah, we try to but that's one of the reasons why we're also doing Streamlabs is
we can't answer every single thing.
Of course. So that's if you want to make sure that we get to your question, then Streamlabs is an option. But we do try to keep an eye on the chat as best as we can, even though things are moving kind of quick sometimes.
Yeah, and of course we have John Williams, because
the greatest of all time.
You would say he's.
I would say that he's the greatest.
I think we've debated this a lot here.
Maybe,
home.
yeah, like back and forth.
Because I'm more like a Hans Zimmer person, and you're definitely more like a
but
John
but I could
Williams,
see like
perhaps.
how for me like it's John Williams and then Zimmer maybe, and yeah, it's but for me John Williams will always be very much on the top because of what he has done with, you know, some of the really big franchises and movies that has kind of formed my life, with everything Spielberg and then Star Wars, of course. So he will always be number one for me.
Yeah, you said it, Howard Shore. He is also on my list.
And Johan Johansson, rest in peace. Yeah. Sorry, I just saw that Procrastinosaurus said that.
Yeah. And someone else also said Ramin Djawadi.
Ramin Djawadi, I think. Djawadi. Yeah, the guy who did the score for Game of Thrones, and he's also doing the score for Westworld.
Yeah, and I think he's really good. Westworld is leaning a lot on Radiohead. And that's why I really liked the first season, actually, because he took a lot of Radiohead songs, and they also, because a lot of Radiohead songs are about this whole artificial life thing. Yeah, I'd say. And yeah, I just thought that was great. And after that, I've got Ennio Morricone. Yeah,
you're just like one step ahead of us, guys.
All the time. You're just taking it out of my mouth, basically.
Ennio Morricone, yes, spaghetti westerns, and you know, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and then
he got The Hateful Eight,
and that was cool that he was that he could do another western score, spaghetti western score, and then in a Tarantino movie, because we love Tarantino, and yeah. And I know, Steph, we will watch Westworld season 3 at some point, and then we'll talk about it. We can't do reactions, but we do want to watch it and talk about it at some point.
I just want to mention, because Primark Gaming is talking about "Creep," the song from one of the
Radiohead,
from Pablo Honey. And I remember this saying, I don't know if it's just you know, like a story, like a rumor or something. But allegedly, Radiohead, especially Tom York, actually listened to one of the songs on the radio and was like, or listened to "Creep" on the radio, and he was like, "What the fuck is this kind of crap?" And they said, "Oh shit, it's mine."
Yeah, they're pretty famous. Like, they're known for not liking their most famous track, which is interesting. But they don't like it at all, and they're like, "Why? Of all of the songs that we've done, why this one? Why this one?" Yeah. But that's
I
how
think
it
it's
goes.
because the lyrics speak so much to people, and the way it's done. Their older music was, exactly. He hates Creep, but the older music is more organic, or like it's more acoustic. It has this more organic vibe because it was made in the 90s, and I think that at least it speaks a lot to especially young females,
maybe,
and especially songs about love. So "Creep" about this like
if you've been hurt and you're a teenager, then that song just speaks to you, I guess.
Yeah, if you're in love with someone you think is way out of your league, it's perfect, right? It's next one. I was Trent Reznor.
Yes.
He also did a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, of course.
He did Watchmen, and he did
and then of course
The Social Network.
Yes, and then of course 9 Inch Nails is that's his band. So without going too much into detail on everyone, then we got
Alan Silvestri.
Alan Silvestri, yes, and composer of one of the more well-known big blockbuster franchise themes of our day here in modern times, and you know, with Avengers, and that is definitely, I think that's a really good score, and he has hit something there that hopefully is gonna survive the test of time, just as some of the stuff that John Williams has done for Star Wars. So yeah. And staying in that lane,
Ludwig Göransson?
Yeah, Ludwig Göransson, or doing the English pronunciation, Ludwig Göransson, or Göransson, or how you would pronounce it in English. But he is known for
Black Panther and The Mandalorian, and especially for my sake, it's the Mandalorian thing that did it.
Yeah,
really.
and that's where I liked what he did with Black Panther. Totally, don't get me wrong about that at all. But the things that he did for The Mandalorian and being able to create a whole new sound that still fits in the Star Wars universe and not being like the same as John Williams or in that vein, and just doing something completely different but still Star Wars like. He nailed that. So I think that's a huge achievement.
With the Black Panther, it's a bit overshadowed by the very great work that Kendrick did on that soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Black Panther.
Yeah. He did.
Most of it.
Well, he did like. He didn't do the score for the movie. He did the soundtrack, which doesn't necessarily mean that they used all of the stuff from the soundtrack in the movie. They only used 2 or 3 songs from Kendrick's Black Panther soundtrack in the actual movie, but the soundtrack was still very much, a part of the movie. I think.
Joransson is doing Tenet.
Oh, he is.
How cool is that?
Oh, so Nolan is not using Hans Zimmer for a change. That's weird.
Interesting.
But cool. Very cool. Thank you for telling us, Primark. That's cool.
And then I have 2 of the people that made the Naruto's soundtrack, because I really like Naruto's soundtrack.
Yes.
So them as well. And I think the last one for me is Alan Menken. He's basically the mastermind behind all of the Disney movies, especially at least the 90s, the ones we grew up loving. And he only won, I think he kind of won for Lion King. He was composing Lion King as well, alongside Hans Zimmer, I think, or something like that. But
not sure, but... At least Elton John, he also won something for that one.
I know.
Hans Zimmer
Alan Menken he's been like the go-to scoring or like music composer for many, many, many Disney movies, and especially the good ones, or like the ones I find the good ones.
Yeah. Oh, Danny Elfman. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Did Sam Raimi Spider-Man music, and didn't he also do Batman? Sorry, that name just totally escapes me, but that is one of the themes that I grew up listening to so much. Didn't he do that?
Oh, he did The Night Before Christmas.
Yeah, and then like he did a lot of stuff for Burton, so that's why he did the Batman theme for 1986 Batman, and then they kind of used that same one in Batman the Animated Series. So that's like verse or composers and stuff. And then I mentioned yes, I mentioned something about favorite artist of all time, but maybe we should just end on that. Talking about that, our favorite artist of all time, just because before that I've just written a little bit something down about concerts. I know we've been talking a lot about concerts, but since that is such a big part of the whole movie listening experience, is going to concerts and experiencing your favorite artists live, then I would just like to mention a few. We've already mentioned some of our favorites, but some of the concerts on festivals and other venues that I've really loved, or I had the pleasure of experiencing, names like Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones, Stevie Wonder and Bruce Springsteen, Eminem, most importantly Prince. Like, those are some of the really big artists that I'm just glad I had the chance to actually experience live. Oh, and AC/DC as well. Akadaka. They did their own little festival because they... I don't know if they're of the mind that are too big to do just a to headline a festival. So they did their own rock festival at the same spot where our biggest festival, Roskilde Festival, is usually at. And they had a whole big stage with them, their own stage, and they did their own like area where you could like waiting area with smaller stages and food and everything. So that was interesting. And then some of my favorite concerts has definitely also been Prince. I've had the pleasure of experiencing Prince 4 times. There it is, 4 times live. 3 times in 2010 and then once in 2013. That was when he was here last, and then he was supposed to do his whole acoustic piano tour, and then the horrible thing happened in 2016, and yeah. But besides that, some of my favorites have been Watch the Throne. I saw that when both Jay-Z and Kanye, they were touring the world with their Watch the Throne album, and then they also played a lot of their stuff from their respective catalog. Back catalogs. And also Coldplay, which we talked about a little bit. That was a great experience, especially experiencing it with you and seeing how happy you were, and happy tears. Another one that I really loved was a concert with Kendrick Lamar, where James Blake, he was actually he was the what do you call it? The warm up? Do you call it that? In English?
Perhaps.
Honestly, the artist that will play before the main thing. Do you call it a warm up? Because I'm blanking on what else to call it. But he played before Kendrick, and then like that was a real great experience just seeing those two in the same night. And then all the way back in 2006, I think, or 7. I attended a Justin Timberlake concert at a very big venue as well. It was great seeing him live because he's a great entertainer as well. And that was one of the first like really big concert experiences I had at that time. So yeah, I just wanted to mention a little bit of that concert stuff.
Yeah.
Opening act. Thank you. Opening act.
Opening act. Yes.
Thank you so much.
I just quickly want to respond to something in the comments or like in the chat.
Yeah.
I am wearing makeup, but it's not really picking up on the camera. And somebody asked me about the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack, and I'm very sorry, but I can't stand jazz. I said it. I'm sorry. I said it.
Yeah, fair enough. I like it to a degree.
I like the short pop version. Cat is not cat. Wow. I'm cat. Jazz is not my thing. Jazz is really not my thing.
Fair enough.
And I really love like jazz singing, but it's not, once again, jazz, not for me.
Fair enough. Yeah. We have another Streamlabs here just before we get into our favorite artists of all time. And this one is from Peter as well. I forgot about Amadeus and Melancholy Lars von Trier, Tristan and Isolde in the End of the World. Oh yeah, that was the stuff you were talking about before, like some of your favorite movies about musicians or about music. So yeah, those are some very good ones there. And yeah, I think we mentioned Lars von Trier as well, our very special and unique Danish director. And then Amadeus, yes, good one, very good one. But shall we get into what our favorite artists of all time then are? And it can maybe change soon or at some point in the future, but I'm gonna keep it to 4 names, 4 artists, because otherwise I could just keep on going. But I've narrowed it down to 4 that I can with a certainty say that those are definitely some of my favorite artists of all time. How about you? Have you been able to narrow it down, or do you have like a longer list?
I have not really talked about Coldplay.
Okay. So maybe let's have a Coldplay session now.
Yeah, because you know that I love Pearl Jam. It's like my first musical love in that regard, but Coldplay takes the cake. Um, I really don't know how to describe it, but Coldplay is just, it's just, I can't describe it. It's I feel everything at the same time when I listen to Coldplay. And somebody asked me whether I will listen to the latest album. Of course I have. It's not my favorite album, but they do have Arabesque is really, really nicely made.
Yeah, it's very well made track. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm hyper fixated on Coldplay in that regard. At least it's not like I know everything about the people in the band or anything like that. It's nothing like that. I love Chris Martin. I think he's an outstanding human being. I think he's amazing. I think he has so much joy for life and for other people, and it's so infectious.
Yeah, uplifting.
And exactly,
Yeah.
and they had this shift. I think it was around A Head Full of Dreams. That they just, oh no, I think it was before, it was with Milo Soloto. They started to shift towards a more colorful, like everything was just made in colors and rainbows and
more of a pop sound as well, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think then they, because of the whole divorce between Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, he went through a lot, the poor guy. And then they came out with Ghost Stories. That's one of my favorite albums. Because it has like this honesty or this sincerity. It has this once again this organic sound to it. Even though it's kind of mellow, and it's kind of melancholic, and And yes, we have seen the Game of Thrones musical, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that is just that whole thing just gives life. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Ghost Stories was a bit a different sound. It was kind of a little bit step back from this whole pop, like this whole And for me, Ghost Stories was, even though they didn't, it's still very electronic in its sound. It's still very mellow, and it's still very.
It's more of a personal album, maybe.
Yeah, and I can't describe this feeling. It's a bit like umami somehow. If you could have umami for your ears, it's like this deep, soothing in a melancholic way. It's like a hug from within. I can't really explain it.
You're trying.
But it's really, I find it's really good, and even though it might not say a lot, it's still saying a lot. You know what I mean? He's not necessarily the lyrical mastermind that some other artists are, but
he's very, like, you can understand what he's feeling and the what he's trying to convey.
I think
and
so.
He's good at that, and yeah.
And he has, of course, they have made amazing music, and I'm actually more of a Rush of Blood to the Head person. I really like that album. Of course, I grew up with The Scientist. I grew up with Amsterdam is one of my favorite Coldplay tracks ever, because it's just basically just Chris on a piano with this amazing composition, and him and his voice about love, of course. And I mean, I went through this when I was about 13, where I went through all this I was just opening up towards rock music, and I was kind of pulling away from mainstream and trying to find myself in being a social weirdo, really. And I remember going to this festival for like kids, and there was this guy in blue pants and long, beautiful, curly brown hair and suspenders with his guitar and just playing pop songs. And he played, I think it was The Scientist he played. It was The Scientist he played. And I just kind of fell in love with him in a weird sense. You know how you can fall in love with an act? And I kind of fell in love with his act. And then I suddenly realized, because there was this whole... there's a lot of stigmatism around being a weirdo in mainstream, that you are not allowed to actually listen to pop music. And I remember that was something I went through. And I remember listening to this guy and seeing all these girls fall in love with him right there when he was just singing these heartfelt songs. And I just went and said, screw it, I'm allowed to actually like pop music. I'm allowed to like something that's not rock or something that's harder than rock. I'm allowed to not listen to metal or punk just because I wear like
you're allowed to listen
tartan
to
skirts
whatever
and
you want to listen
exactly. And that was kind of a revelation for me. And that was actually a Coldplay track that actually opened my love for Coldplay in that regard. Because of course I grew up with The Scientist. It came out, and everybody knows this music video, I think, where he walks backwards from a car crash.
Okay. I've probably definitely seen it.
And yeah, it was just, yeah, and he took me back to that, and he kind of, and the song was indirectly like my revelation into I can listen to whatever the fuck I want. Nobody's going to tell me what I can like and what I cannot like. And that's how my love for Coldplay kind of opened, and I just loved it and loved it and loved it. And then X and Y came out in 2006, I think, and I listened to it when I was in Italy, and I was just like, I'm allowed to love this.
Definitely.
And then Viva La Vida is probably my favorite of their albums. And it came out with all this, it was such a different sound. It totally broke with what we knew. It was like this sad, sappy.
You could say it's sappy or like soap music.
Yeah, it was like soap music. And then it was a clear break from that. And they started to actually make some interesting music. And they actually took a lot of inspiration from like folk music from around the world. There was something, I could definitely hear something that was sounding like East Asia. I could hear something that was like old Celtic. I could hear something that was Arabian. I could hear all this old like folk music all around. And it was still just, Coldplay does this amazing thing where they have beautiful melodies and very nice composition of everything. And yeah, and that's just, I know I've talked a lot about this now and I'm just gonna stop, but now you know just a teeny tiny bit why I love Coldplay. It makes me feel everything at the same time, and it's nothing like compared to any other thing.
Yes, that's your big musical love, where mine is probably Prince in that regard, that he can make me feel all of the feels at the same time. For a long while though, I've had a hard time listening to Prince though, in particular because of what happened, and it reminds me of what happened, and I'm still not over it. So if anything ever happens to, God forbid, if anything ever happens to Chris Martin, then I believe that would bring some of the same connotation, like if one would listen to Coldplay after something like that happened, and it could maybe just make you think of that all the time. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not listening to Prince as much as I would probably like to. It's because it makes me sad. So yes, and I just quickly... No, wait, you only talked about Coldplay, so some of your other favorite artists. Do you want to get into those first? Or
I feel like I've touched upon it almost.
Yeah, okay.
Because of...
Just to reiterate then, just which ones?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, Kashmir Mew is such a big part of my life. Savers is a big part of my life. Robin was a big part of my life at a certain time, and once again, that amazing concert last year. I think, well, Bon Iver is one of the artists where I have been to the most concerts, and I've only been to like 4 concerts or something with Bon Iver. Pearl Jam, of course, but I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah. I was just to just reiterate for people, just if you could mention just a handful of names that you would deem your favorite artists. It's only because I saw that you wrote like a couple down, and that was not a lot, but
I think we've been through most of them. Veto.
Yes.
Veto is just once again. I just wanted to say that was important for me.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Well.
And then we can very much, you know, if you want to listen to some of the stuff that's coming out of Denmark, then Veto is something that we can definitely, you know, definitely. I am losing that word totally. It is something that we can recommend to you. Yes, there it is. My English capabilities are dwindling at the moment as well. So it's a good thing that we're going to be wrapping up very soon. Okay, so it was just because you had the thing that I was fishing for was you have written down 3 artists as your favorite of all time.
Yeah.
And so,
but I've already talked about those.
Oh yeah, I just wanted you to mention them again. But
okay,
no.
I can just say of all time, I think definitely Coldplay is the all-time favorite. Pearl Jam is like it's like was my teenage love and is still very important to me. And then later times maybe Bon Iver perhaps. I don't know.
Right, and for me, trying to keep it to like only a few artists as well. Then I've mentioned Prince multiple times. It's always gonna be my all-time favorite. Then Eminem for the early hip hop years of mine. Kendrick for the later ones, and then also Bon Iver because I can always listen to Bon Iver. And that's it. That's all we have like prepared and written down and everything that we really wanted to talk about, I think. Unless you have thought about something new. I have like one artist that I for some reason haven't mentioned in the hip hop genre that I've listened a lot to, and that's Kid Cudi. I actually really liked the first 2 or 3 albums he did, and then he kind of fizzled out. But yeah, I liked him as well.
I just want to say I have been talking about Jeff Buckley. I guess you weren't there.
Oh, okay. Someone's asking about Buckley. Yeah. We mentioned him and how it's sad that he's not amongst us anymore. But and like what kind of mark he maybe would have been able to leave on the whole music industry, even bigger than the one that he left, if he had still been around. And I guess you could say that's the same with some of the artists that I mentioned, like Pac and Biggie and stuff, that could have been great if they were still around. But shit happens.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's as I said. We have gone through everything that we kind of prepared and that we wanted to talk about. So just during the last couple of minutes here of our live stream, if you have any questions or comments, then please submit them through Streamlabs now, or try to do so in just a normal chat, and maybe we'll get to it. But one other thing that we did want to talk about or just mention is something related to gaming, actually. We are going to start doing some gaming live streams, some gaming streams, some let's plays, whatever you call them, very, very soon. All right?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
And I have played like the first introduction part, and I cried a lot. Spoiler alert.
Yes, I wasn't even a part of that, so I'm gonna have to check it out on my own time at some point. But I've heard that just the story and everything in that game is supposed to be amazing, and just the graphics as well. You mentioned that you think it's a really pretty game. And then I have kind of teased what kind of games that I'm gonna be playing, and at first I'm probably gonna do a couple of streams playing some Battle Royale, most likely Apex Legends, because that's the game that I know and I'm able to play, and there's not a learning curve while I'm trying to maybe read the chat or something, so I can just play and chat. Can't rewatch, it's gone. Oh.
What?
I thought that you were able to... Oh, well, then we'll have to look into that. We're still very new to Twitch. But another game that I want to play and that I'm gonna play is God of War, the newest God of War for PS4. And I've played the old God of War trilogy, so I know about the story and I know about the character of Kratos and everything that he has gone through. And I'm looking very much forward to playing that game because I've been saving it for so long, and I've been wanting to play it for a very long time. And so yeah, that's our gaming streams, and we're gonna let you guys know as soon as we start streaming and when we're gonna be doing it, in both updates, and probably also gonna do, like we've seen some other YouTube channels do, where they'll post like a very, very short, like 20-second video or something, where they're telling people that, hey, join us over on Twitch where we're gonna be playing this and this and that. I think that's the way to let the most people know what's going to happen, or the way that most people will actually see it. And then there's the issue, or the question of our next live stream, and we've talked about this a little bit, the two of us, that what the next live stream is maybe going to be about. And yeah, what we were talking about was, now that we've done one about TV series and one about movies, and now one about music, then why not do one about games as well? Because that's also like a part of our lives. It might not be as long, we might not have as much to say, both of us, in that stream, but then there's like way more of a possibility for like you guys to ask us questions, and we can get into a lot of different stuff at some point. But yes, we'll let all of you know what's gonna happen and when, with the live stream and the gaming and everything, and yeah. So do you have anything you want to add to that?
Somebody is commenting that we should play Witcher 3, and honestly, we've played it so many times that I can't understand why you would watch someone play it for the 107th time.
Unless you just want like insight, and maybe just want to hear us comment or something, and maybe it's something that we can pick up once in a while and just play while we're chatting a lot with people, and it's not necessarily about us reacting to the story, but just just playing and doing something while we're chatting with people. That could be something, maybe, but yeah, we've played it many times, so we're probably not going to do Witcher 3 streams just right off the bat. We're going to keep to stuff that we haven't played, or for me, multiplayer battle royale stuff that I know how to play. So yes, I think if there's no more Streamlabs, nope. And yeah, someone is mentioning, how about one on books? We could definitely maybe do that, or something in that regard.
It's gonna be really hard. I was thinking about that as well, but most of the things I've read is actually Danish. I have like 3 major.
Maybe
major
we can do one
international
about just literature in general, and both where we can move both into like novels and comic books and anything that you can read, anything with pages, I guess.
I'm just going to be very quiet for that one, but it's fine.
But then you can ask us a lot of questions again, and then you can kind of dictate the conversation. That's also something that we want to get to at some point with these live streams, is getting to a point where we can where we might have prepared like some stuff to talk about, but then we're going to rely on you guys to dictate the conversation and ask us questions and tell us about maybe some news that we don't know about, and then we can react to it and talk about it and stuff like that, and get into maybe some more personal stories if you like hearing about that. Someone mentioned that they like getting some lore about us. Earlier in the live stream. So yeah, there's many possibilities, a lot of stuff to do, and we're gonna let you guys know what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it, to the best of our capabilities. But later tonight, maybe in like an hour or so, an hour or maybe 2, I think I'm gonna do some live streaming or some gaming, and just play some Battle Royale, some Apex, while I'm maybe chatting and answering some questions. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye on our Twitch. And then I think that's pretty much it for this live stream.
I just want to add that I am going to, when this live stream is added afterwards, I'm just going to pin a comment where I'm just mentioning all of the things we talked about, like the Danish artists, so you'll
be able to check them out.
And our Twitch account and all that.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you thought, hey, that was exciting. Can I please have a link on that, or can I please know about that? So
Yeah, and how about the spelling on that and
Exactly.
everything? We'll let you know in maybe a comment on this very video, on this live stream, and then maybe also a community update, and yeah, we'll let you know. The information is there, and if not, then you feel free to contact us if you want to know something, in the comments, and then we'll get to them. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for our
live stream.
Our fourth live stream in total, and this one about music. And it was really nice talking about music with you guys, and not necessarily like getting away from the visual medium of television and music, but or movies, but talking about something that we haven't really talked that much about on our channel before. That was nice, talking about music, I think.
And of course, we could always keep talking.
We can we can always just keep talking about stuff and keep talking about stuff in the comments. I see people mentioning games like Shadow of the Colossus. I would love to try that out as well at some point. I know there's a remastered version out there, so maybe I should check that one out as well. But without getting into too much of we can keep talking. We're just gonna end it here. So thank you guys so much as always for checking out our live stream and doing this with us, our extended YouTube family. And we're just really enjoying it. And thank you so much for the donations today. Charles 12, the first donation of the day. If you saw our reaction to that, holy shit!
We can't even.
Need to pinch myself to thank you so much. Thank all of you so much for everything that you are doing, and the fact that you want to spend time with us in these trying times and everything. That's we love you. Thank you so much. And see you very soon.
You're amazing.
Bye.
Love you.
We love you.